So I want to talk about living a healthy new life, a healthy emotional life. Living a healthy emotional life. That means having a healthy psychology, a healthy mental life, a healthy emotional life, our inner self, our soul, but it also means the various aspects of our soul. How do we live a healthy life in these areas? And how do we deal with other people that might not be so healthy? Well, remember this before we get too far going here. Even when I'm talking about dealing with others, really, they're lessons for ourselves, and we must never forget that. Yeah, they're a pain in the ass, but they still are mirroring things for us to learn. And before you get too hard on yourself and say, oh God, that again, I thought I learned, and be careful, just relax. You could be a really stellar person with just a fragment of something going on inside, like a fragment of self-doubt or rejection or whatever. And people will enter your life. And people are not just mirrors. That's a common phrase we use. People are mirrors. People are not just mirrors. They are magnifying mirrors. So they don't just mirror stuff, they magnify it. They blow it out of proportion. And I think we should all come with some sort of a label when we're born that, coming into this world, objects are actually much bigger than they are. They seem much bigger than they actually are. Like kind of playing off the words of our little rear view mirrors. So objects and issues will actually look much larger than they really are. So think of it that way. It's like, yeah, this is annoying, but I'm still not doing that bad, But how do I know if I'm really not dealing with an issue? You could say if it really blows up a lot and often, consistently, then, maybe that tells you the volume is up inside ourselves too, as far as how much we should be working on these issues. But, just take it easy on yourself. Don't ignore issues when they arise, but take it easy. So keep that in mind while we're talking about this. And I'm going to quickly segue into something that I've been talking about the last few weeks, or off and on for the last couple of months, really. We've had this talk about, now and then, about the role of Saturn, the planet Saturn, in our lives. And I'm sorry if it's redundant if you've already heard me talk about that a little bit, but bear with me. So Saturn is the planet. Satan is the character in a different tradition. Saturn in another tradition. Set in Egyptology. They're all the same guy. And it's kind of ironic because the role that they play, it's almost like every culture could give you a different angle of what that consciousness is. Now in psychology, it's called the ego. And when we talk about ego, some people say, isn't the ego the thing that does this and that? And isn't it something that's kind of a healthy part of you? It keeps you from burning your hand on a stove. Isn't it the ego that says, stay out of danger? No. When we're talking from spiritual psychology, the ego is our fear-based self. It is the self-doubter, the self-saboteur. It has no intention of helping you out in any way. Its only intention would seem, in spiritual psychology, is it is an evil in Christianity, a Satan. It's an evil, but it's kind of weird because although it seems like an evil, it's evil in that it doesn't mean you well. But here's what's really trippy about that. That in those same systems and psychology, but also looking into mythology, when you blend all these, you go, well, which one is right? Is it a guy that lives in hell, pitchfork and all that? Is it a deceiver that walks the planet and messes with people? Is it a psychology that, a little, is it the shadow? What is this thing? Our shadow selves? Is it set a mythology in ancient Egypt? What is it exactly? So think of it this way. No matter what it is, it's more like a blend because all those are looking at it from different angles. It's more of a blend of those. And this is the trippy part I was leading to. No matter what, one thing we can learn from it, whether it's Set or Saturn or so on, is that when, like in the book of Job in the Bible, paraphrasing a lengthy book, Satan, Set, the ego, etc., says to God, this guy named Job, he's a pretty good guy, isn't he? God says, yes, he is. I'm pretty proud of him. Now remember, Job is you and I, our soul, that is trying to improve itself. So God says, I'm really proud of my child who's working on themselves. But, the ego and Set and Satan and all that says to God, which is almost like you could imagine the ego talking to the divine in me, or you, any of us. It's talking to the divine in me saying, you think you're so holy, and you think that you can get the other part of you, not the purely divine, but the human that's trying to become divine. You think you can get it to go in that direction. Yes, I do. Well, not if you let me beat the heck out of it. If you let me test it, if you let me really work it over and make it doubt, make it go through stuff to prove that it's spiritual, it'll fail the test. God says it's impossible for it to fail the test forever. So it's just a story. It's a metaphor, the book of Job. It's just a metaphor, but it's an amazing one because in the story and in all the mythologies and in the deeper understandings is that no matter what you want to call evil, Satan, and so on, at the end of the day, when it tries to work its power, its evil powers, like in a movie, when it tries to work its evil powers, I become a better person when I exercise my psychology, my spiritual psychology, my soul, my free will, my power to choose God. When I do that, see, if I just say, I believe in God, there's an argument that says, how do you know you believe if you're never tested? So Saturn does that. Saturn is the planet that symbolizes bringing our stuff around again and again. And so the beautiful thing about Saturn, when you see it from that perspective, is it's not seen as an evil planet. We don't tell our children, hello, boys and girls in a classroom, you're learning about the planets in our solar system, astronomy class, really 101 basic, and here are the planets in our solar system, and this one right here is called Saturn. It's an evil one. You don't even want to have pictures of it. You should take a marker and scribble out a picture of it, when you look at the solar system, because it's evil, which would be like a fundamentalist view of the planets. Because you're shaming Satan, you shame Saturn. But from a deeper perspective, a higher perspective, you wouldn't do that. You would say instead, wow. So if I think of evil as something that tests me, which it does, then maybe it's good. Some people would say, maybe it's good. Be careful. First of all, it isn't an anything at all. It's not a good or a bad. It's actually part of our dream, and we're actually whole and perfect. But in our dream, we conjured up this belief that we're imperfect, and therefore we also agreed to allow this thing to test us. The good news is, Spirit in us and around us, Spirit says, I'm rooting you on. I'm at the finish line saying, come on, you can do it. The ego is saying, I'm hoping you'll fail forever. Well, the good news is that we passed the test. The very first second we thought we separated from God, it all became over because the law of grace was one we chose back in the beginning of time. The bad news is time seems to still be existing. So because time seems to exist, all it is a holographic headset we've put on that we're looking at a video game called life. So it doesn't really do us any good to go, oh, I passed this test, oh, I failed this test, and get all worked up over it. The bottom line is in the back of our minds, guys, no matter what you're dealing with, and you watch things on the news and there's people, tragedies and catastrophes, and I'm not saying, don't pitch in, absolutely help where you can. I'm saying that in the back of your mind, remember, when your child doesn't get good grades and when you hear of a loved one who's taken their own life and these things that go on in dramas, health issues, very terrible, diseases that go on, in the back of your mind, remember, and thank God, these are tests we've already passed. Just in the back of your mind. And thank God, all is well. And that's why some traditions will say, whether it's Jewish, whether it's Christian, Muslim, philosophers too, mystics and so on, why they tell you to affirm laws and names like the name Jesus Christ. I affirm that in the name of Jesus Christ, this has no effect on me. They're not just kind of pushing religion on you. They're pushing the power. You could call it the magic, but it means it in the real sense. The beautiful magic of dispelling something that seems to have been there. By calling in, Jesus Christ, because his name's in the Bible? No. Because the guy, Jesus, who accepted he was Christ, completely woke up. And we're all connected. You and me and Jesus, everybody, we're all connected. So he's a part of us that already woke up. So he's able to say, since I woke up, if you invoke my name will bring a frequency into your situation and shatter it. And that's been promised even to the Israelites. Call upon the Lord. So Jesus is just an embodiment of the Lord. Jesus is just a being that chose to become one with the Lord, the Holy Spirit. So in some time frames in the Bible, they call it God, Jehovah and Yahweh and so on. In other times, they're going to call it the Holy Spirit. Other times, Jesus. It's not like your varying religion should help you pick which one you're going to call upon. Recognize that they're all the same. The beauty about Jesus is that he's like us. He's a brother. He's not just a consciousness that seems hard for me to reach because it seems abstract. He's one of us that pulled it off. So even if it were one of you became completely awake, it would be worth hearing what you had to say in terms of your advice on how we and the rest of us might be able to do that. Just like I have something to share when I do these presentations or teach or write or whatever I do. That's just an expression of my choosing consistently to stay in alignment. It's not to the capacity at all of what Jesus completely accepted. We wrestle with the human self. What's amazing with Jesus is he came to the complete recognition that there is no more a human self to argue with. There's no ego left. And that's not where I'm at yet. That's not where you're at yet. Jesus does say, however, respect teachers who are further along that path. Never worship them. I've said this before on these feeds, these presentations. But guys, there are teachers out there that they claim to have reached samadhi and enlightenment and oneness and they're wow. And they all speak very softly because that confirms it. If I sound like Kwai Chang Caine, then I might have an ancient wisdom to bestow upon you. And I'm like, hey, what the hell's going on? How you guys doing? Like, I feel embodied. And I don't want to go, that doesn't sell it. I need to speak softly because that sells it. Get my hair long and speak softly and, wear certain things and, so that people really buy it. I'm not into that because most of those people that have those claims, and I've said this, that when they have to make those claims, it usually confirms it's not true, especially since I've known a lot of them and they're far from it, So it's a sad kind of thing. I just filmed this week a movie or contribution to a movie that's going to be coming out. And I'm not going to speak specifically about what it's called or who's doing it because I don't know if that's okay for them that I do that. But it's not because I'm, not wanting to promote it. I think it's a wonderful project. But it's one of those movies you see come out, spiritual movies that come out. And this one is going to be on inspiration, channeling, channels, and so on. Spiritual teachers, we'll call it, around the world. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens that got interviewed. I forget that it might have been hundreds or whatever, honestly. And it's interesting to have sat with the director and a filmmaker because much to some people's dismay, but it's a reality, to sit with this man with such an innocence and an integrity. He got this inspiration to do this project. He goes and launches into it. Next thing he knows, he's running smack dab into people that think they're celebrities. I'm a major channel. I'm a this. A God speaks to me. The 80th dimension speaks to me. I'm this. I'm in touch with the Pleiadians. I'm in touch with whomever. They channel different things. All this wow stuff. And he said he went to interview one. It was arranged, it was scheduled. The person, I think, was paid and so forth, because they're being paid. Now, I'm not being paid to do that movie, but because I wouldn't want to do that, but unless certain circumstances. But I don't think we should all do it because we're getting paid. I think we should see it as a contribution to something greater. And so, we might even pay to be a part of that, because it's such a beautiful thing to be part of. Anyway, he says he goes to interview one person, and they had just, they're on stage, so they're in their grandiosity, aren't I amazing? Because I'm channeling something amazing, which isn't really. But I come off stage, and the guy's going, okay, hi, nice to see you. I'm so-and-so that is scheduled to be with you now. And the room's over here where we're going to do the interview. And he says, oh, you know what? I'm really tired. I don't have time. And walks away. No, like, not even an apology, actually. It was just more like, there's no time. We're not doing that, and walks away. And this person, this is a human being left just standing there. I find it to be like silly. It's ridiculous that you would treat somebody like that. But, this filmmaker said, I kind of didn't know what to do. Maybe I guess it's okay. Maybe they were tired. I said, no. First of all, it's scheduled. Well, but maybe they're tired because they were just teaching. No, wait a second. I don't come off a stage and say, the people are riffraff. Treat people like they're riffraff. I mean, it is sometimes it can be challenging to keep going and keep going and keep going. Teach and workshops. This was only a couple-hour thing. I've done things for 5 days straight, 12 hours a day. You're supposed to be fed by Spirit if you're truly plugged in. You're not supposed to be going, oh, I was just visiting God, and oh my God, am I drained? The Lord is such a psychic vampire. That's not the way this works. You're supposed to be plugging in. When you're done, you're like, you're charged. So I explained to him, I said, no, don't make excuses for the person. It's okay. They're doing that, that's their thing. But don't assume that all those excuses are tangible, and that this person, just because they call themselves something, that they're special, that they're, an elite of some kind. As soon as you have a gift, guys, whether it's a psychological, a psychic gift, an intuitive gift, a healing gift, or I don't care, it could be surgeon or motherhood, whatever you have a gift at, that very gift can become pride before a fall. So we have to not just go, well, now that I got the stamp that says I'm a CEO or I'm a psychic or doesn't mean you're suddenly, immune to the need to look at yourself and watch yourself. So to explain that simply, what I said to this person was, we should never grow out of being able to watch ourselves objectively, to check in other words. And here's what would happen for me. If I walked away from that guy who was there, he's flown long distance to be at my lecture, and he's waiting in the wings for me to finish, greet me in the back, and do an interview for an hour or so. If I walked away from that person, if I'm spiritual, I should be looking at that going, what am I doing and why? What's behind this? If I'm not spiritual, I don't really care. I don't have time for you. You're not important enough. That's the ego-based human. But there's another way. We should all be able to stop and go, what is up with this? Did I really just walk away from somebody? And I'm not saying what's right or wrong. What I'm going to say is, can you look within and come out clean when you check in? Can you say, that was the right thing to do? Because, if I came out and I said, hi there, nice to see you, and they said, hi, I'm ready for your interview. If that person would have said, well, listen, I was listening to your lecture, and God, you suck. You're terrible. I don't agree with anything you had to say. I can't believe these people are even here to learn. I too would walk away. And I would then feel totally clean about it. Because you're telling me we're not in congruence with one another. And your attitude doesn't seem like one I want to interview with and put me in your movie. So, see, that's different. It's not what's right or wrong. It's whether you can ask yourself if what your behavior is righteous. Could you honestly say that this was the spiritual thing to do? And this person, when they came off stage, they had their handlers, their bodyguards, and just kind of whisking them. You're not a stinking celebrity, man. You're here to serve God. I mean, that's what it means when we say serve God. I don't mean to sound too exaggerated, but in a sense, we're at the lowest rung, meaning we're serving. We're not here to go, look how cool I am. And it's great that we get lifted up. It's great that people buy books. It's great that you have an income from. All that is wonderful. Prosperity is good. Healthiness is good. But sometimes we take it a bit too far. And I think we need to take responsibility when we take it too far. Because if I make $1 is nice to have, but if I make $1 more important than a person, I've totally blown it. And every master has explained that. If a piece of paper that's, literally paper thin, something like this, or a trinket, an object made of metal, as Jesus calls them in A Course in Miracles, these little buttons of metal, when that becomes more important than a heart and soul, people that come to Jesus and they say, there's somebody laying here sick, they can't walk, can you help them? He didn't say, no, I don't have interest in you. Pay me more money. He didn't do that. Buddha didn't do that. Mother Teresa didn't do that. So for me, I kind of go, I've got to keep a certain value there, a certain quality of checking in. And things are going to sometimes be coming up that makes us, say no to certain things. So all this said, be aware that good or bad, whatever you want to call it, are you passing your tests? And that's all that matters, because you check in and you say, it's not about what evil tested you. Well, it was Satan this time, so I wasn't going to be able to pass it. My brother-in-law, I can pass those tests, but not something darker or more sinister. We're capable of surpassing every test easily. We actually are immune to it all, ultimately, but we just don't feel like it. We don't remember that. So in that sense, people that challenge you are giving you an opportunity to say, wow, is this where my whatever, ends today? Is this where my service ends? Love ends? Is this where my responsibility ends? Never stop, checking in and seeing what's right for you. When something's not right and it gets pushed on you, be willing to say no. And on that note, that's where we start dealing with narcissists. And the ego is the ultimate narcissist. I'm not saying that person's narcissistic and I'm not. The ego is in all of us, so we're all capable of being anything. Crazy, insane, we're all capable of being anything. But there are some people that embody more of the narcissist. And the term narcissist is actually an inaccurate one. Often psychology took mythological terms like narcissist. It's a flower, but it's also a mythological character. Psyche, mythological character. Eros, these are characters. And so psychology sort of applied them or attached them to mental types, emotional types, psychological types of people. And they're not always really accurate. It just then it all gets pinned. So when you say someone's a narcissist, we say that's a really self-centered person with almost like no conscience. It's really not no conscience. It's no awareness or care about anybody else but themselves. And the reason they applied that to people is because in the mythology they say, narcissist looks into the water. He wouldn't love anyone, but he looks in the water and he fell in love with his own image. That is like 1% of the story. The story is actually where the narcissist is actually not a bad guy at all. He was actually cursed because of an angry deity who's ticked off at him for not doing something they wanted, curses him, and he's incapable then of loving others, even though he wants to. He doesn't know how. So it's really, and people love him. He's beautiful, he's good, and people love him, but he doesn't know quite how to safely love them back. So it's really a beautiful story in a sense, but that would be taking away from the point here and the point of what most people want to hear, which is the narcissist is kind of a self-centered person. Yes, fine. And those types, as well as what we call psychic vampires, energy vampires. The classic term is psychic vampires. And what is a vampire? And that's where the whole story about vampires came from. It was actually starting from a psychological experience when people would feel predatorial beings, even astral beings, that literally drain your energy when you're dealing with evil entities. But when we call them psychic vampires, once upon a time that was a dark, shadowy topic that became stories of Dracula and so on. But in modern terms, we call them energy vampires and other terms because we realize it's not just at night and it's not just astral beings. There are people we run into that just drain us. They seem to be able to drain us. The good news is, remember this, technically, you should not be able to be drained by anyone or anything. So even though you can sort of pick on the narcissists or the psychic vampires or those types and say, oh my God, that person's a narcissist. That person energy is an energy drain. It's true, perhaps. In this world, it seems true, and you might be right in that sense. But why don't we ask ourselves why we're even susceptible? The only reason they can sink their psychic teeth into our psychic arteries is because on some level, we're weak enough. In other words, it's a codependent relationship. And I know most of you already know that. And then you say, but how do I break it? You don't break it by snapping off their psychic teeth. What you do is you become immune. Healed of my weaknesses, my self-doubts, my own issues, makes me impervious. My aura, it's called the armor of the Lord, your aura. The aura glows, you become bright. You can go into dark places, be around dark people and feel immune. Do not try this at home, boys and girls. Because if you're not actually ready, if you're not actually in that state of immunity, you'll get all messed up. So don't force this upon yourself. In time, what can you do until then? Yes, surround yourself with white light. Stay out of those circumstances when you can. And forgive when you see somebody's tried to mess with you and pull energy from you. Do your best to bless them, forgive them, send them on their way, but stay away from them. That's the triage version of it. That's the in the trenches version of it. That's how you do it. But I'm not going to leave it at that, where I always have to just, push away people that are this way and, be cautiously push them all away. We have to ask ourselves at some point, am I getting any better at this? And if you're not getting any better, then you are actually suffering from a negligence here on your part, because you do need to work and get stronger and stronger. Grounding helps when you're around psychic vampires, energy drains. How to know that they're doing it. First of all, you might get feedback, of people, man, be careful, that might give you some insight. But also when you feel tired after a person's around, which could be anybody. I mean, I could do a talk like this and you could just be like trying to keep up with me and feel, oh my God, I'm exhausted. That's different. You go and run a few miles and you feel tired. That's different. There's positive where you feel like worked, like, wow, your psychic muscles got worked, your mind got worked, your physical muscles got worked, and you feel a little tired from it. Swimming some laps or whatever you do, you get a little tired. That's different. This is a drain on the inside. And it almost then, because it's pulled out, you're unplugged inside, it's almost like having chronic fatigue. You get unplugged, and then your other energy resources, your meridians and your muscles, and you start to feel drained as well, because the foundation to them gets taken, kind of pulled out from under you. So you have to be really careful about these things. But, the psychic vampires and things like that, people like that, you watch, because one way to know somebody's a psychic vampire is over negativity, constant negativity. Oh, you got to watch out for this. Oh, you better be careful of that. Oh, I heard you can't trust that. Oh, I went to a chiropractor. Oh my God, I would never go to one of those. I heard one client of a chiropractor died once. I heard this happen before. A chiropractor I knew. I really felt bad for him. He was completely stamped and ostracized, almost run out of a town because a client passed away. Had really nothing to do with him. Because the guy already had some issues going on in the arteries and vertebra on the neck. But it happened. And I've known of this more than once. I know massage therapists that have had people pass away. And so you'll get this announcement from the ego-based world. Watch out, man. Because in history, there must be like 10 people that have passed away on the table of a chiropractor. Watch out. Really? How many surgeons have lost people? How many doctors who were supposed to just put a thermometer under your tongue and people still died? You know, they won't tell you that in comparison because they're trying to, you know, keep you away from healthy things, you know. So you got to be careful with this a bit. But, you know, people that negative, you know, I'm not saying there isn't at least maybe a fiber of truth there. But don't buy into it all the time and don't become one of them. See it if you are one and say, you know, wait, from now on, wait a minute. I'm going to say it more tactfully. You know, I've heard this, but I could be mistaken. Like even just allow people a chance to hear another side instead of just flooding them with negativity. But if people do that around you, be careful. Be the one in the room when people are doing let's have a gathering of psychic vampires, all, you know, razzing people. Be the one that says, you know, that's funny because I've heard differently. You know, I took I remember in a class once where students were, I was taking kind of a survey of people that had tried out different things, and it was, you know, people, the question was on holistic health, holistic medicine. I asked folks, and people were like, oh yeah, you know, definitely into it. But there was somebody there that went, well, I don't know, man. I've heard somebody that went to a so-called holistic doctor and they got really sick. And I watched the room and people were like, oh, I better not do that then. I better think twice about going to one of those. And I thought, isn't that amazing? You know, this little vampire, this little kind of a Judas dropped into the mix and just messed with everybody's minds, this little evil moment. And I'm not saying the person is hopeless and evil. I'm saying it's an evil that does that. So watch yourselves, you know, not to buy into that, but another thing to watch, not only the negativity, but when they say, God, I'm struggling with finances, and you go, oh my God, this is like a miracle. I know somebody that's hiring. Oh no, I don't think I could do that. That's full time. I was looking for a job, maybe part-time. Oh, okay. Somebody else says, I know where there's a part-time. Oh, but that's at that end of town. I don't like going there. Oh, okay. Well, there's this other job over there. Yeah. No, I've heard about that business. I didn't like the owner. And I mean, they'll snuff out everything you give them that could change their lives. Watch those types of people. If you're one of them, get out of that. Heal it. But when you're around it, try to bring light, but usually the vampires prefer living in the dark. You know, you don't usually see a vampire movie where some character comes in and says, hey, all of you, you know how you've all been kind of living in the dark? You only come out at night and you kind of wear dark clothes all the time and suck blood from people. There's this really trippy thing you may, you know, want to try out. It's called light. Hold still. Everybody stand. Watch this. And open all the blinds, you know, and the curtains. And, you know, they don't all just go, oh, let us breathe this in. This is a fantastic experience. That's not how these movies go, right? They, you know, they get all freaky. And that's what's going to happen when you try to bring light to some of these people. They may not hiss, like I just said. They may not, you know, go through all the melodrama. But inside they are. They're pissed at you. They're angry that you're not allowing them to just pour their toxicity all over everyone. So, you know, you've got to just take time to see the difference, see that type of energy, the psychic vampires. You know, I remember a family member saying once when I had children, it's when I had one or two, I don't remember, but I remember this family member saying, why don't you bring the children by? And I'm not kidding. They said, I'm not feeling well and I would like to maybe get some energy from them. I thought, wow, that is so cool that statement was so blunt, so blatant. Like you know, it's like, that was beautiful. I'm going to have to remember that. You know, this is like now 30 years ago, but it's just so beautiful, so obvious that somebody would not even recognize what they're saying. Bring the children. I'd like to, you know, they have energy. I'd like to get some energy because I'm sick. It's like, wow, pretty cool. And pretty cool not in the real, you know, pretty cool that you can see it, but not so cool that people actually live that way. So when your energy's bright, people want to drain it. When your energy's low, they'll still take the last out of you, because the ego goes by the survival of the fittest. The ego will do anything to survive yet another day. So it'll take whatever energy. Yes, it will draw light from bright souls. Take life from bright souls, in fact. But even if a person's low on energy, they'll still try to take what's left of them. But more often than not, they do try to take, and that's why when you say I'm kind of struggling, a psychic vampire might say, yeah, I know what you mean. They're just going to kind of agree with that. When you say things are going great, they want to take it to the opposite extent, because when your energy goes down, you just think their comment took you down. I was real excited. I said, I just signed up for school. And this person said, oh God, did you know student loans are one of the worst things that cause, suicide rates? And now watch what happened. Oh, you just felt kind of bummed or dispirited and so on, kind of deflated. But did you ever think about this? When someone throws in a line that deflates you, did you ever wonder where the inflate went to? Where did the energy go? Where did the vibe, the light, the excitement, whatever you want to call it, where did it go? Trust me, that person, although they don't have fangs out and they're not with straws, just sucking away the energy from you, energetically they're pulling it from you. They will walk away. I'm not saying this is conscious. Almost never is it conscious. When it's conscious vampirism, then you actually have somebody practicing black magic. This is almost always unconscious. And then what's weird is they're going to walk away, and an hour from now, they're going to wonder. They can't sleep because they're so energized. They're not going to say, oh my God, this might be so-and-so's energy. I'm going to call them and I'm so sorry that I took that energy from you, because that would be called apologizing and making amends, which could give you some of your spirit back. That's not how they typically do it. They're typically going to just notice, wow, I feel energized. And, they're going to be quite happy about it. It's kind of like just kind of strange. I feel kind of low, and you might even think something's wrong with you. But nothing's wrong with you. You're not going crazy. You're waking up. You're starting to recognize that something's wrong with this picture. And maybe I need to just kind of steer clear of certain people and energies for now. There will come a time when you're quite immune to energies. I feel plugged in to spirit. I do. I feel plugged in. Not better than anyone, just I feel plugged in. It's my own experience. And I almost never feel drained by people, and because I have it together inside enough to not blame constantly everybody draining me. I don't have a lot of holes in my aura for people to stick straws into. But I will say this. It was early 1990s. One day I was standing in a room, and I had gone into this room a few times. It was a store. And I started noticing something shifting. And then I tuned into it, and I know this is going to sound a bit out there, but I could actually feel energy going out of my eyes, my body out my eyes, and into towards the ceiling. And I thought, oh my God, I can see what's happening psychically, clairvoyantly, I could tell. The whole ceiling was filled with fluorescent lights. And I had not heard, people's thoughts and opinions about fluorescent lights and their effects and the energy systems and all that. But I actually could feel that happening. So I knew that there was validity to why some people say, God, even electromagnetic fields and phone, electric towers. Those things, they mess with our energy fields. We're capable of being immune to it all, honestly. I mean, God on our side, what's there to fear? But we're not always totally plugged into God. So I'm just owning that I notice that for me, it's rare enough to where I notice it. For some people, it happens so often they don't even know or care anymore. I don't mean that they don't care. They would like to care, but they don't even know that it's happening. So they don't even do anything about it. They don't even catch on to it. So, it's kind of a bummer that it's that way, but it is. So, in your own life, look at your life, look at what you can work on, ground yourself more, clear yourself more, practice love and forgiveness. That's what makes you immune to such people. But in the time between now and then, set some healthy boundaries. And one thing I'm going to share in closing is that It's a very kind of an interesting concept. Imagine that everything in the universe is connected. But even more so, imagine that everything out there is mirroring us. So again, the narcissist, the psychic vampire, Satan, Saturn, all these things, they're all mirroring lessons. Now, even if they're bad guys out there, even if there is something called evil, whether it is or isn't, my job with it is to pass my test. Whether it's Satan coming to test you or your ego, you still have the same goal, which is to come through this. To say, I'm going to survive this. I can do this. I know I can do this. That's your job. That's the divine in you that says, of course, if God's with me, what could be against me? So the last thing I'm sharing here then is, picture, for example, the solar system and the planets moving. And here you are in the middle, living sun and earth and so on. But even though the sun is the center of the universe, in terms of cosmology and astronomy, the earth is where you're at. And so we're living in a ecosystem, a spiritual ecosystem with all these planets and the whole universe for sure. But just using the solar system, when you look at it and you say, oh, look, there's planets. But what if those planets are actually mirroring me? What if they're me? What if my soul doesn't end here? My soul is as big as the solar system, let's say. Now the planets aren't happening out there, they're happening in here. So where is Saturn? Where's Mercury? Oh God, Mercury retrograde. Oh, full moon. All of that's happening within me. If I don't like a full moon, I've just condemned a part of myself. If I hiss when Mercury goes retrograde and cuss when Mercury goes retrograde, what's that mean? That's an unhealed part of myself. So even in our family systems and even our political systems, as crazy as all these can be at times, they're all a part of me. They're all cells within my system, my whole being. The solar system's only really one particle of me. The whole universe is just one part of me. I'm bigger than the universe, any one of us. Our soul is bigger than the universe. But if that's too far out, just call this then an exercise in imagination. And so all of a sudden, all the planets are within me. And when they move, when they conflict with one another, when they go conjunct, when they go direct, when they go this way, that way, those are parts of me going direct, that are conjunct, that are squared. Those are parts of me. So when my chart says, here's my birth chart, there it is. It says, here's how things were in me the moment I was born. Not how I was yesterday or tomorrow, but it's when I was born. Now, how are you? It's called a natal chart for a reason. Now, how are you going to do with that? Oh, I can't do anything because I'm fated. According to my natal chart, this is happening and that's retrograde and that's squared, whatever. It's like, no, wait. That's how it was. That's how I was. Now it's time to me to move forward into a new life. So remember, all of this is happening. Globally, we're all moving into a new life. Personally, you should be aware of that and getting on board. Ride the wave, man. Don't let it knock you over. But if it does, then bobble underground, here and there. Try not to get too beat up on the sand under the water. Eventually try to get to the surface and do what you can to start swimming now. If you get toppled, but try not to get toppled. And if you get toppled more than once, why? Why did you not hear the wave coming? Jesus was saying, how is it you know how to read the signs of the weather, and you guys don't know how to read internal signs? That's what he was saying. How is it you know how to see it's going to be a rainy day tomorrow? How do you not know how to look inside and see the coming times? Which is that Spirit, Christ has been born, and it's awakening in every one of us. So Saturn, Mercury, they're not just out there, they're in here, but so then is Christ. And so then is all forms of evil. It's within ourselves until we heal it. Until we let it know we're not here to be controlled by it. One way to do that is to say it's like Saturn coming into my life, bringing up issues, Mercury going retrograde, bringing up issues. What can I learn from that? Instead of, oh God, I might as well give up. It's what can I learn from this time? Okay, Mercury's going retrograde. Time for me to work on being more clear in my communications. oh, Saturn retrograde, let me work on this or that or the other. So make the best of all these times. I pray, as always, that this has made good sense, but make the best of these times, because the only reason, like currently, Saturn's doing what it's doing, beautifully so, really just working us over. But Saturn represents the Satan, in the tree, tempting Adam and Eve. It's just trying to test us. And I'm not saying its intentions are good, because it's an energy. It's just a thought system. It's not good or bad. It's just doing what it does. But in the metaphor, it tempts Adam and Eve, and they blew it. They failed, and they didn't take responsibility. So why would you want to repeat the loss, the fall in the garden of not taking responsibility? Because Adam and Eve, in a split second, could have taken responsibility for the mythological biting from the apple, from the tree of death, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the tree of judgment. We died spiritually, so that's the tree of death. But there's a tree of life, and all they had to do was own that they bit from this one, and they would have been given the fruit from the tree of life called forgiveness, and they would have been done in that story. And instead, we have history that is, you could say, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, and even billions of years old now. It can all come to a close. But don't talk about Adam and Eve doing that when we're still doing it every day. Stop. Take responsibility for the lessons. Mercury brings, full moons, brings, my talks bring, your best friend, your worst enemy, whatever these people do. Let's find a way to find peace, our best form of peace. And, an interesting thing happened just recently, just a short version of it, is I ran into somebody that caused a lot of harm to a lot of people in Sedona, a few years back. And they're part of a small contingent, of a few people that's what they're kind of hateful. And running into this person, it was an interesting thing, because I'll just call it in the mythology or in a metaphor kind of a story, this person was in a position of like coming to Unity of Sedona to get something, a little light, yet they don't like us and so on. So it was my tendency in this story to try to reach out to them and say, look, I know you don't like to be around us, you don't like us because, whatever your trip is all about. I understand that. Is there something we can do that you can take with you that, not like a psychic vampire, but is there something you can take with you that you can practice this thing that you see here that you love, that is light, but you can't bring yourself to apologize for the harms you caused? Is there something we can do to help you take this with you? And I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm just going to say, are you always willing to do what you can to send light to people, even if they've been harmful? That would be a good thing. I'm not saying put yourself in harm's way. That's unhealthy. And I'm not saying that you should enable people's behaviors if they're hurtful. That's unhealthy. But what can I do to bring the most good to each situation? So there you have it. I pray this meant something to you and might help you in some way, and or help you in a way that you can also share it with others. Remember, when you share anything I have taught, share it as your truth. Don't say there's this Michael guy, the Michael. Don't promote me, even though that sounds kind of weird. Don't promote me. Don't sell people on me. Talk about it as though it's you and your experience. It's something you believe and practice in your own life. And talk to them about how it works for you. You don't have to sell them on me. If there's a time that comes when they say, where do you hear about this? Fine, then answer honestly. But I don't say these things to try to gather students, chelas, disciples or whatever. I'm a disciple of Christ consciousness, and I encourage you to be one as well. I may be further along in that, but that's what I am. I would not call myself my own something and having my disciples. It doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody want to be a disciple of a being lesser than Christ. It doesn't make any sense. Just join me in the discipleship of Christ consciousness. And let's all revel in that, marvel in that. Let's all celebrate that and give thanks for that. Yes, I'll play the role in teaching this and that, but let's remember, I'm only playing a role, and there's something far greater that we're all heading towards within ourselves and cosmically.